I'm just going to go through your portfolio and just reflect on the different pieces and what I see as the sort of your stronger work, and kind of what direction you might go in. I can see from your employment history form that you want to be a 3D animator. I think this piece, not to spend any time on it, just doesn't really have any place on your portfolio. It's not very strong. I think this one, yeah, I think it doesn't show much, so I wouldn't include that. And then there's a little bit of sort of charm to the style of this, but there's no really great animation on that one, so I wouldn't tend to include that. And I would say, yeah, again, that we've got some decent sense of movement going on here in a couple moments. But like the bounce. But I just don't see it as a portfolio piece, especially for a 3D animation reel. And here's where we're starting to see some exercises that would apply to a 3D animation reel. I think that for I think the animation needs to improve is the main thing, but also when you're doing a portfolio piece, you know, rather than if you're going to play blast, make sure to have the show ornaments thing turned off so you don't see the perspective thing and that. But really, be good to do at the very least a hardware render, just so it has a clean, finished look to it. I think that animation-wise, yeah, it could be stronger. When I look at something like this, where um, when this foot moves and there's no movement here to counter balance the fact that there's no weight on that foot, you would be shifting the weight of the object over the foot that's carrying the weight. But when the character lifts this foot off, it just slides off without any real kind of adjustment to the weight of this one. So this should actually shift away from the camera and kind of maybe go down a little bit to balance over the other foot. That's just one example, but I think there's and then the weight should shift back again when the character puts the foot back. And I think with this anticipation, it's like it's squashing, but it doesn't seem to have floor contact. It just sort of it seems almost like it's floating above the floor because it does it does nothing sort of seems to be reacting to the ground that well. The way it kind of rotates before it bounces up. And I think this camera move is also distracting from the movement here. And this being stuck, it it's like it's not really because the ball is smaller than the hoop, so it's not clear why it would be stuck there. I mean, I guess maybe if the net's holding it, but there's no translation movement in the ball, and you would think if it was struggling there, it wouldn't only rotate. There'd be kind of movements in different directions, and that the feet's movement would motivate. If the jerking the feet would kind of motivate some of the movement of that, and so that's sort of not convincing. And then again, this camera movement really distracts from the motion of it. So I think the idea of this piece is good, and I think the idea of using these sort of the simple ball with legs character is a good idea, but I would say to be a portfolio piece, animation would need to be stronger. I thought this was pretty decent. I think there's sort of subtle things you could do to improve this. Maybe get a little bit more kind of offset on the wrists, maybe. Can repeat this here. Um, Maybe a little bit of neck going on would be good. But yeah, I think you've got a basically decent walk there. Here, I was wondering, if you modeled and textured everything yourself, or if some of the stuff was kind of imported. I think it's like so shiny. It's almost the shininess itself is maybe a little distracting. I might tone down the sort of glossiness of some of the objects and the reflectiveness in the render of that one. But it's a good piece. I mean, it's if you modeled everything, that's a pretty solid piece of modeling work in there. This one I didn't think was that strong. It has a kind of a bit of a flat look to the shading that I thought could be better. This I thought was good though. That has a real sense of light and shading, and this I thought was strong, and that's really strong. this was okay. I think I'm not loving the shading on the fingers here and some of the other bits. But this one's really strong. That's really good. And that I don't think really has a place on your portfolio. So yeah, I think there's some strong things in there, but I think the main thing is if you want to be a 3D animator, you need loads of 3D animation. So that's the area to really focus on moving forward.